welcome two patient representatives, Uwe Korst from Bensheim and Tess Carris from the UK. It's increasingly important, really, for good clinical research to listen to our patients. And for a certain group, this is the first time that we really invite these patients representatives. And we're happy that Uwe Korst will start with his talk on the role of European patient advocates, EPAX, for pediatric kidney transplantation.
Thank you very much.
Please go ahead.
Microphone should be on. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to speak about the role of European patient advocates. First of all, also the presentations before were very impressive. For example, biomarkers. I hope there will be better biomarkers in the future to have early detection of kidney failure. Anyhow, okay, I will continue. What is the patient organization? So we organize within ERCnet, the EPAX, and you may know it already. ERCnet is European Reference Network for rare kidney diseases, and there are a lot of experts, European-wide and all over European, are organized to provide healthcare for more than 70,000 patients. That's very impressive figures. And here's some graphics. 512 million people living in the EU, 30 million with rare disease.
We can't, excuse me, we can't see your slide.
Oh.
We just see the first one.
Okay, sorry for that. I try to do it again. And then, sorry. You see it now?
Now this is the second one, but not in the presentation mode.
Okay, oh, good. Sorry for that. Now should be.
Now it's perfect.
Okay, thanks a lot. So that gives some figures about ERCnet and European data. And interesting is that more than 300 individual kidney diseases, rare kidneys exist. It's very impressive, and therefore for the patient, it's very necessary to go to the right expert. So what does ERCnet do, and especially what do patients do? What patients do, patient representatives, I'm going to speak about. The next slide. First of all, it's very important to develop new guidelines for all the 300 different diseases, to offer virtual consulting services for the expert, for the physicians, to have exchange, to learn more. That means physicians can learn in different centers about the different diseases. Clinical research is very important because there's still not enough evidence for all the different kidney diseases. Best knowledge should be distributed to everybody. And of course, advances in the development of new therapies, it's very important. So it's different to adult diseases where, like cancer, so it's no problem to get budget, but it may be different to get budgets for rare diseases. So what is the role of the EPAX, the patient representatives? You see it over here. First of all, we are going to do a patient journey. So what is our journey? What are the pain points at the different situation before going dialysis, on dialysis, if you go on transplantation, and even after, if the kidney fails. Then within Europe, there are a lot of patient organizations all over Europe for different diseases, not for all rare disease, but for some. Then we have patient communities where the patient can exchange each other. And also we're very interested in research, and we have also some research requirements or priorities. So we asked our patients, what are your priorities on research? And that's also available for some diseases. So the main role is what is the need of the patients and the relatives, and that is heard and integrated. That means if you have diseases, not only the medical stuff is important, for patient is also important how the diseases are handled, psychological things, and that's medicine is integrated into other disciplines, for example, if there's pain and all that things. All EPACs represent patient organizations and patient groups on a national level or even on a on a European level. For example, PKT International is based in Geneva and is responsible for all European groups and collect also needs of patients. And it's very important for us to work in partnership with clinicians to support the development of clinical practice guidelines. And so in some guidelines, we can have some add-ons and some extra benefit because we have a different view as patients. As you as doctors, you see the organ, but we see the all over situation. And also in some cases, we can contribute to research and research priorities, education. And for us, it's very important to have information available to all the patients, and we have awareness activities to get known information about the different diseases. And therefore, we also develop a lot of materials, brochures, videos, website to support the patients and also to give the patient from where to go. From time to time, it's not very easy for a patient to find the right center for rare diseases. And you can read more. There's a special website, patients.ergnet.org, so you can find all the information and the materials for patients. So here see the organization structure of the patient. First of all, Susana Kayawal Ayona, she's the head of the patient representatives of ERGNet. I am the co-chair of that. And for each disease, or let's say for the major disease, there are coordinators. You see the coordinators over here. And you can also see it when you go to the patients.ergnet.org website. So you can find where you can support for specific diseases. So what are the patient needs? For pediatric kidney dysplasia transplantation, we collected some information. I think most things may be known already. But first of all, when you have a new disease, it's very difficult to find an expert. Now you have websites and yeah, if a woman is pregnant, it's very difficult that the doctor transfers the patient to an expert center. Sometimes it's not done, but we as patients see it very necessary to have a second information, a second expert about things about that. And very interesting is that there are also some barriers to renal transplantation. There was an observation study done in the UK. It's very interesting to see that what are the barriers and how can barriers be overcome. So pre-transplantation need, first of all, is a decision phase for the parents and also for the child and the young person. Is it better to have postmortem and to wait for an organ which may be, which waiting times may be very long, versus living donation, which is good, very good choice, and the outcomes are better as we see it in different studies. Then a lot of clinical needs, for example, waiting lists are quite different in the different European countries and all over the world. And of course, the goal should be to avoid dialysis, because the longer you're on dialysis, the more worse gets the situation before you get transplanted. That's shown by different studies. Patient support is very important. That means you need to find a patient organization on a national level. And also education and medication is very necessary, because young adults, or if you are 14, 15, 16-year-olds, have other problems than a transplant, and therefore you need to have a good training how it's necessary to take your medication on time, but also on the treatments, and nutrition is quite often an issue. That means you shouldn't avoid some nutrition. Social needs, it's very important points for the patients, and donor to patient match is an important point. And the more organs are available, the better you can have the donor to patient match. Post-transplant, after transplantation, adherence is a very, very important issue, because persons should be trained and even parents should be trained. That means why is it necessary to take medication on time, and what should be done and what should not be done, and how to live in a safe way. I can summarize it in that way. You should have a safe way even after transplantation, and you should be educated about, and most centers do it, but from my point of view, it should be repeated after a specified time, because you forget after some time what is necessary, what you should do. So model of care is a very important point. We discussed it also in the KDIGO meeting, which was recently on graft loss. And the interdisciplinary approach is very important. As for adults, it's very important. I guess it's much better in the pediatric area, but even interdisciplinary approach is very important. School adaptation after it is very necessary. Teachers need to be informed. School at home may be a measure to be done. Emotional support is very important. And what we also see is transition phase into the adult care. It's very, very important to have it a smooth hand over to the adult care, and differs in the different systems. Is it paid if you are 19 to stay in the pediatric area or not? Then also PROMs, patient-related measures, reported outcome measures are very important, and more. And also in KDIGO this year, we are going to work on this as patients on PROMs, because you see it's very important, and the implementation is very important in pediatric clinics. And the next speech, I guess Tess Harris is going to speak about PROMs in more detail. And what are challenges? Challenges, that's also a slide of the KDIGO conference. I was in the psychological group. That means research findings should be more and more evaluated in medical outcomes and clinical care, and integrated into the daily life. I think this is more or less for adults, but it's also relevant for children and young adults, or that means 16, 17-year-old persons. Expectation grief, well-being, include partners and family members should be included in the care of kidney transplant recipients, because it's a different age. If you are 14 to 18, you may have other problems. You grow up as an adult, and therefore it's very important to get very good support. And in this KDIGO, we also recommended to have time debate state measures. That means a questionnaire could be helpful for young people, and to identify is there any need for psychological support. So that was my speech.